The civilizations and history of West Africa don't really get so much attention in the mainstream media. And this is such an unfortunate thing because there's so much cool history of West Africa, some that I'm even starting to learn about now. From the complex societies of the Ghana Empire and the Songhai Empire, and also the richest men in the world, Mansa Musa, the University of Timbuktu, and everything in between. West Africa has a lot of history that people just don't really seem to be talking about. But one must ask, how did this civilization, how did all these things come? A lot of people like to accredit things to being civilized by Europeans or Arabs, whatever the case may be, but that can't really be any farther from the truth. When you actually look at the history of Western Africa and just the African continent in general, you can see that a lot of things, a lot of civilization and complex societies were actually something developed indigenously, you know, with the influence of other people, but then also with the interactions of the different communities living in a place. And so that's what I'm going to be telling you about. And so in order to understand this, we have to look at the origins of the Neolithic Revolution, especially inside of North Africa, which is why I make a lot of videos on this, why I make a lot of videos on these types of things. And what we actually see with the Neolithic Revolution in Africa, or just in general, is the spread of pastoralism, so things like cows, sheep, and goats, and then the spread of agriculture, so planting, farming, those types of things. Now, the interesting thing is that cattle domestication actually did seem to develop independently in northeastern Africa, around southwestern Egypt, or in some of the places where it was found in southwestern Egypt are actually associated with like the earliest stone circle in the world, you know, the earliest astronomical observatory, Nabta Play. And from that area, we see people spread south into the Nile Valley, and those people would be like the Eastern Sudanic people, and, you know, help create the Nubian kingdoms. But then also we have people spreading west, and these people will help establish the West African civilizations that we see a lot later. The people who migrated west actually came in contact with hunter-gatherer populations living in the central Sahara. And some of these might be ancestral to some of the Mande speaking groups. So people like the Mandinka, which is actually, I think, where the Malian king Mansa Musa came from, if I'm not mistaken. So we see that pastoralism starts in Northeast Africa around 8,000 years ago. Now, around 6,000 years ago, we have the start of the pastoral period in the Central Sahara. This is basically when hunter-gatherer people start adopting pastoralism from incoming communities, probably from the Eastern Sahara regions. And one thing to like keep in mind is that the reason why we have a lot of people moving around is because this is when we have the drying of the Green Sahara and everything's turning into the Sahara Desert, the end of the humid phase. This is also kind of a little bit later when we start having the development of certain agricultural goods and certain things like that. And basically people started moving westwards into, you know, Western Africa with pastoralism and with these Neolithic activities, and they settled in a place called Mauritania, where they actually start to develop the Tet culture. Now, the Tet culture is pretty much accredited to like the Proto-Mande people. It's actually known as one of Africa's earliest complex societies, and it's mostly known for its large settlement sites and for its related pottery. These people also are likely the people who created the foundations of what would be West African civilizations and would turn into the Ghana empires and Songhai empires and the Malian empires and much more. Now, the time period that this culture, the Tet culture, was actually existing was actually from around 2000 to 1500 BC, which is actually not abnormal for the period, because around the same time we actually have the formation of the Kerma city-state in Nubia. Now, domesticates of other agricultural foods such as fonio and pearl millet were also present. So it shows that these people weren't only pastoralists, they actually were agriculturalists as well. Now, before this, we didn't really have too much cattle pastoralism into sub-Saharan or sub-Sahelian West Africa. And so around 2500 BC, we actually have, I guess they called it the tropical convergence zone, which I guess is a fancy way of saying like the borderline between what the Sahel or more arid regions of the West African land would have been, and where it would have bordered the more tropical areas of West Africa. It started to move southwards. And so then we start having the migration southwards of these people and these communities, and they start spreading their Neolithic practices with them. So we have more things like the spread of these agricultural practices and agricultural foods, but then also with the spread of pastoralism as well, which is why we can see kind of like a weird like also the map where it's like you have people coming into West Africa then migrating south all of a sudden with the pastoralist activities. Some of these people would obviously move towards the areas of the Niger River Niger Delta and places in Mali and around that area, where basically they just start to lay the foundations of other civilizations that would appear in Western Africa. And in some of these regions, some of them would have been provinces of the Songhai empires, the Ghana empires, and the Malian empires, and etc. This is basically how we have the start of the civilizational periods of Western Africa. And so let me know what you guys think about this video. Is there anything that I should keep in mind, any details that I don't know about? I'm just starting to learn about this stuff too, so that's kind of why my knowledge can be a little bit wacky, but I hope this one was a good one. I hope you guys learned from it, and if you have anything you want to add, just let me know in the comments. By the way, if you want to check out my latest blog article about the West Africans, look at the link in the bio, click that link, I'll email you the article, and yeah, that being said, enjoy. If you want to have a place to talk with me and other people, you can join the Discord server or the school. Both will be linked below. Pick whichever one you want.